Hello everyone and welcome to today's presentation. We are EBS, your experienced technology partner, and we've been in business for over 45 years. We specialize in the deployment of Sage Business Management and Microsoft solutions, managed services and secure on-premises and cloud-based infrastructure. My name is Darren Tolley and I am one of the account managers here at EBS. Today we are joined by Sicon, who we have partnered with for many years. Sicon are a Sage Tech Partner Plus and provide a wide range of innovative solutions for Sage 200. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Chris Donlan, our Partner Account Manager.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Chris will give us an overview of the Sicon Cash Flow module, which integrates with Sage 200 Professional, helping you achieve a single reliable view of cash flow across your business. We are recording today's presentation and we'll make this available to you in the next few days. There are lots of recordings on our YouTube channel. Remember to hit subscribe to receive notifications when we load new videos. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, or there will be an opportunity at the end of the presentation in the Q&A session. That's enough from me. As I said, I'll now pass you over to Chris. Morning, Chris.
Good morning, Darren. Thank you very much for inviting me along. And good morning to everybody that's watching this after we've finished. I'm going to take you on a journey through the Sicon Cash Flow product. What you're looking at on the screen right now is the Sicon website. Do feel free to visit this, sicon.co.uk. It'll give you an idea as to all the products that we develop as a software house. Just emphasizing a bit more on what Darren said earlier about linking to Sage 200 Professional. We exclusively link to Sage 200 Professional, so we don't work with Sage 50 or X3 or any other Sage product or any other ERP. I think that gives us a bit of a USP because our products sort of look and feel like Sage 200, especially if they're anchored to the main menu, as this one will be for cash flow. And hopefully that adds to a quicker onboarding experience and makes the product more familiar and easy to use. And hopefully I can convey that across to you later. Okay. So without further ado, let's pop into my Sage demo environment. My menu in Sage is going to look very busy because I've got quite a lot of products for Sicon switched on. But the one that would appear for you if you wanted to go with Sicon Cash Flow is going to be this menu for me at the top here. Now, immediately, as I say, you can get that feel for the behavior of the product, the navigation, etc., which again, as I say, just really feels just like a Sage product. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go onto my cash flow forecast. You can set up as many different cash flow sets, as we call them, as you want. So typically a cash flow will be looking at your sales income, your purchase ledger costs, etc., your nominal budgets for things like payroll costs, etc. But you don't necessarily have to set it up so that it embraces everything. You can actually assign a nominated number of accounts, and this might be a sort of a focus that you might want. So for example, I've got one here called construction cash flow, for example. You might want to set one up that actually just reflects a range of different bank accounts that you have on the system. So it might be your current account, savings account, business premium account, deposit account, etc. So as many different bank accounts as you've got on the Sage cash book, these can all be reflected in your cash flow forecast. So for today's example, I'm going to just hit the default, and that will allow me to put a bit of gloss onto the kind of thing you're going to be able to see. As I say, the system is reactive to what is going on inside of your Sage system, as alluded to by Darren earlier. So not surprisingly, I can see my sales, purchases, nominal budgets. Okay, I can also see what my potential VAT liability might look like. Okay, For those of you that are watching this who may be involved in construction, then typically making an application for payment and or keeping money back from contractors that have been doing work for you, then it'll be welcoming, I'm sure, to know what do my application forecasts, what are they impacting on my bank balance, and when can I expect to get them, and so on. And likewise, when am I due to release retentions, etc. So this will also work with our construction suite. The other module that it works with, which I won't go into too much depth with today, is Sicon contracts. Now, contracts, again, for those people that might be repeatedly billing for rent, hire of equipment, etc., for servicing, then this is a very, very good module to get a repeat bill produced. And again, we're trying to explain what the impact of that income generation is going to look like, as you can see here, over the coming months. You can define the period that you want to look at over here, as long as you want to look ahead into the future. You can set your forecast date from when you want that analysis to look at. So I'm just going to pop back a month because I've got a little bit more data to bring into the screen if I go back as far as April this year. And again, we'll take a closer look at some of that information shortly. The next thing to mention up here, look, is what sort of breakdown do I want to view my cash flow data? So do I want to look at it on a daily basis, weekly basis? I've got a default here of monthly. Okay, so you can choose that and then reset it. You can also say, do I want to include any bad debt provision here? You might have already, unfortunately, had to make an allowance to write the debt off. So you might not want to, delude your bank balances by thinking that you're going to get bad debt. So sometimes I come across people who say, no, let's exclude that. And they also have this box ticked over here, which is removing VAT from sales order and purchase order transactions. And that's not a bad thing, because at the end of the day, it's not your VAT. You're likely to be handing over to customs and excise, of course. The level of detail, which is where we're going to go to now, this can actually be broken down again over a number of different layers. Okay, so at the moment what you're looking at with me is literally the highest level summary that we could possibly show you. So this is literally all my bank balances added together, all my sales accounts, purchase accounts, etc. They are all grouped together. Okay, if I break this down to account level, and every time you change any of these settings, by the way, the system will just recompose itself. Okay, if you want to refresh without necessarily changing any of the settings, then of course what that will do is it will reread what changes might have happened in Sage since the last time you refreshed it. So if you wanted to leave this cash flow image up for, let's say, an hour and then refresh it, or you can actually put an option on in the background which just automatically refreshes it. So these figures that you're looking at with me, this could potentially be a completely moving landscape depending on what activity is going on with the rest of your users on the Sage 200 environment. So at account level, okay, what this will enable me to do, if we look at sales, okay, I can look at sales ledger and the sales orders, and you can see I've got some hefty hefty figures in here. It is only demo data. I'm sure it doesn't necessarily reflect the typical reality, but here I'm now looking at effectively like an age debtor, but it's actually on screen and it's impacting my cash reserves, or impacting on the image of my cash reserves, so I can actually see what my bank impact is going to be from the activity on these particular accounts. Okay, and the same thing, of course, if I was to just shrink that down again and this time go into purchases, I can then look at my purchase ledger and see what I owe my suppliers, or what I'm due to be pushing out to those suppliers in the sense of purchase order commitment. Okay. One thing before I forget, in case we've got people on the call with us today who work in different currencies, then you can include all your currencies or selectively go for which currency on accounts you might want to focus your attention on. So that could be euro, dollar, for example, or maybe just pound sterling. Okay, the system will automatically convert currencies, as you can see shown here, at the relevant currency rate. So what you're looking at on the screen is the resulting values coming into your sterling accounts. If I go another step further, let me go down to document level this time. And what you'll see impacting here can be quite useful. So if I go to my sales ledger now, okay, I can now open, let's look at this Better Kitchens account here for an example. Okay, so when I click on my arrowhead, what I'm now looking at are all the invoices that are due to me, okay, from that particular account. Okay, we often flag certain things. Okay, so here, for example, a legend pops up and says you've got cash on this account, but you haven't allocated it to the transactions that it's meant for. So you've posted the cash, but you haven't allocated it. If we look at this one, we've got an indication here that this particular transaction has already got a memo on it. Okay, and in actual fact, we've already been into this transaction, and as you can see from the legend at the bottom, transaction has a custom forecast date. Okay, and I'm going to show you now what that looks like in action. So if I right click on here, okay, I can actually now mark as a bad debt, okay, which is quite useful. I can view the transaction, I can view the customer account, I can amend the customer account. Okay, so lots of things that you would typically take yourself back into Sage 200 to do, I can actually do whilst I'm in the comfort of being in cash flow. So let's go and have a look at the transaction, for example. So this is an invoice, as you can see here. Okay, it's already had, as the legend was declaring, it's already had a memo attached to this. So let's go and have a look at that. Again, I'm just using standard Sage fields to reflect what happened. Apologies for the text. Obviously, it's just fleeting, just composing something into the demo at the time when that was done, but effectively what it would normally reflect is a typical maybe engaging conversation that you've been having with the customer. Okay, and you're trying to get them to make a commitment as to when they're going to pay. Okay, and accordingly have some correspondence to reflect back to if you need to. Okay, so if we pull back to the transaction itself, another thing that I could do is I could say I'm having this conversation with a customer. They've now agreed to pay me, let's say, in June. So I'm literally dragging the transaction further along into my forecast. And let's say we've agreed that they must pay me by the 5th. Okay, so let me just save that. And again, of course, the system will automatically now refresh. Okay. And what we'll have done now is updated that forecast date that you can see there to the 5th of June. Now, we don't change the original due date because it's important for you to obviously get an assessment as to what your debt payment history is looking like. Okay, so we don't change the due date, the natural due date in Sage. We just change the forecast date so that we can then reflect that balance better in the cash flow forecast. Okay. And again, as you might appreciate, all these options to cascade the information, look further down, etc., are all relevant and available for the ledgers that you're looking at with me now, or the sales orders, or the purchase ledger and the purchase orders. Okay. When it comes to nominal cash flow budgets, let me talk a little bit about that. So if I just pull out from cash flow for a second and go on to my nominal ledger to get a list up here, you might possibly, if I've got a PAYE account, there you go. So if I just amend that account for a minute, On your budgets, okay, if I say, okay, let's do a monthly budget, okay, so you might have some idea as to what your commitment, in a sense, to pay the inland revenue for PAYE on your payroll, okay. So what you can basically do here is set a cash budget and this can be replicated into your forecast. Okay, so if you're saying you're going to be expecting a typical cash budget for PAYE to be, say, let's say, I don't know, £10,000. Okay, if you then allow a menu just about off grid here, but if you hit this menu once you've set those budgets, then it will replicate them into the forecast budget in the column to the left. Okay, that means it can then appear in your cash flow forecast. Okay, so when you have paid that money via a cash book payment or a bank payment to inland revenue, just come back in here and mark that as paid. Okay, and then that will adjust the reflection of that figure in your forecast. Quite useful in a sense, because not everything is driven by raising an invoice to a customer or receiving an invoice from a supplier. You are making bank transfers, and if you want to get some feel and scope for what those bank transfer impact is going to have on your bank balance, then might be worth something to consider. But effectively, that's what we're doing within the standard Sage system. We're just adding this additional column which services our cash flow module. Okay, I won't bother keeping that change. Okay, so let's go back up to cash flow forecast and reopen where we got to. So as I say, the main thing, and quite a lot of people, by the way, in my experience of presenting this, do use this as a debt chasing vehicle. So they use it for credit control. Okay, so yes, there are age debt reports you can get in Sage, and you can plod through one account to the next and pick up the phone and call customers. But I think this is quite a nifty way of, especially if we go down to document again, as we did before, but it's quite a useful way of having a series of accounts excuse me, on screen at account level, back to better kitchens as we were earlier, and I can then munch my way through that quite quickly to say, well, look, when are you due to pay us that invoice, etc. Okay, so you will always be shown what the anticipated payment date is. Okay, but if you are then compelled to move it, as you saw me do earlier on, then, as I say, we're going to update that forecast. So if you then click refresh, or the system is compelled to auto refresh, then again you'll be looking at your exact representation as to when you should be typically getting that money, or if you've gone through a similar exercise with your suppliers when you're due to pay them. Everything you see on the screen here, which looks very similar to an Excel spreadsheet, and there's a theme behind that, because I can actually export everything you're looking at with me out to Excel, and then take that Excel sheet with me, and I might need to then sit down with somebody who is not necessarily a Sage user, okay, and arm myself with information that's going to enable us to have a more engaging conversation. Okay, so apart from the speciality areas, which, as I mentioned earlier on, which is to do with application, retention and contract management, which are relevant to other Sicon modules, then typically that is what the cash flow forecast is designed to do. And you won't be at all surprised, especially in this day and age, that this is becoming a very popular module throughout the Sage 200 professional user base that use our products. It's a very short, nifty presentation, I know, but if you want to learn a little bit more about cash flow, go back onto the Sicon website, sicon.co.uk. You don't need to register to get into this page. Feel free just to hop on and have a look. You will get some opportunities to look at more features and benefits. It will also have an option, if you wish, to go and look at a recently recorded showcase about it. Okay, if you want to get into the manual, okay, which is, we call it the helping user guide, you will need to send us an email address with a password, and someone in our admin section will check that password, make sure you're not from a competitor, and then they'll allow you access into it. Okay. Another point to say is that we don't actually supply any of our products in the Sicon portfolio directly to you as prospective end users. So we prefer to work with your Sage 200 business partner. In this case, we're talking about Darren and the team at EBS. So the great thing about that is that they will already be looking after your Sage 200 system, I'm sure. And it means that that 360-degree wraparound support that you have become used to will also be extended across, in this instance, the cash flow product and many others in our portfolio. Okay, so it's not a question of you ever deciding, hang on a minute, do I ring EBS, do I ring Sicon? Just go to Darren and the team for everything. If they need to reach over their shoulder back into our resource, they can, but it just means that you've got a single point of contact, and that's the reason why we prefer to work in the way that we do. Okay. Another thing to point out, of course, is that all our products, very much like Sage, are sold on monthly subscription. So it's no big hefty cash purchase. It's just a small amount of money to be billed each month. Darren and the team again can acquaint you with what the costs of investing into the cash flow module will look like. They will be a recurring monthly charge, and there'll be some additional professional service just to basically install, set the system up, show you how to use it, and no doubt provide you with some background support should you need it. But that is the concept of what we do as a company. We've been doing this for about 25 years now. I think we're looking after circa 3,000 Sage 200 companies, many of whom use one or more of our Sicon products to help them run their business. I'm going to pause there and just bring Darren back onto the screen just to say if there's any questions that I might need to provide an immediate answer to, but failing that, if it's something you think about after the event or watching this video back, again, as I say, please do go back to Darren and the team at EBS, and thank you for watching.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, in terms of sort of deployment, this is quite a quick module to actually put into place in our experience. Licensing wise, as you said, it's a monthly subscription, but it doesn't matter how many users there are.
That's a good point.
You know, so it's a single subscription for as many people as you need to have access to it. They will need a Sage license, but typically your finance people do. So yeah, there's no other questions really. It is you know, a relatively straightforward application. One thing to mention is that we have our Thrive event coming up on the 17th of June, and there'll be an opportunity to meet Chris there.
I will. I'll be there. Can't wait. Be a good day.
It should be. Again, if you know, last year and the previous couple of years is anything to go by, there's lots and lots of information sort of passed on the day. You know, it doesn't really matter where you sit within the business, and everyone is welcome. I'll put a link up on the next slide for that, but you can go to our website at ebs.tech, that's TECH, and you'll find the registration on the homepage there. So it'd be good to see all of you there as well. So that said, thanks again, Chris.
Very welcome.
We'll be doing another webinar next month where we'll be looking at Sicon approvals. And Chris will be joining us for that again. Right. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.
Cheers. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.